All right, who wants to start?
Oh boy, I don't even know how to start it. What are we even calling this thing?
It's just a movie review. We're reviewing the movie. I was thinking earlier, like one of the things that came to mind was, does it suck or slap?
Suck or slap. Review number 1. Oh. Boy.
3, 2, 1, go!
So what we do first is we are going to say, would you recommend it? And would I recommend it? We'll say it at the same
Thumbs
time.
Up, thumbs down.
So that if you're just here to figure out if you should go see it or not without any context, you can leave right after we do that. So we don't waste your time. We just get our answer first. Get that out of the way. Okay, so 3, 2, 1. Oh, interesting. Should I go first?
Sure, let's get
I'm gonna try
extra negative feedback.
Okay, so I'll try to avoid spoilers. Ralph's an idiot.
Yes.
He's really annoying. He acts very out of character compared to where he was in the first one, which I love the first one. I think the first one's great because of Ralph and like his character growth and how John C. Reilly's charisma comes through him. Like John C. Reilly is able to kind of voice act his own charm into it, which he apparently wasn't able to do this time. I don't know if it was the way he was directed or if it was just the script. He feels like he goes between an irritating sidekick or Jar Jar style borderline villain. Most of the central conflict seems to be caused by Ralph just messing things up because he's incompetent and
Right.
he gets in people's way and he's like, it's like, can someone babysit Ralph, please? And I don't like how the dynamic of Vanellope and Ralph seems like it's changed in this one. Whereas in the first one, it was almost like a big brother or like uncle to niece dynamic, like adoptive niece thing. Because he wasn't really a father figure to her.
Right.
But he was her role model. Like, definitely. By the end. Like, he's her role model. Whereas in this one, it's completely flipped.
Yeah.
Like, she's the voice of reason, and he's this very irritable, loud baby man who's just kind of making everything hard on everyone else because he's such a responsibility for anyone in the room. Like, he does nothing but cause trouble for everyone in the movie, the entirety of the movie.
Yeah.
Which was weird, because he was not at all that in the first one.
Right.
Do you want to say while you're kind of maybe
Yeah.
in the middle? Because that's my biggest problem with it is Ralph doesn't feel right. He doesn't feel like Ralph.
That was one of the issues with me. I felt like he just seemed like a big dummy in this one. And then the other thing for me was the pacing. I feel like they had too much topic to cover with this one, whereas in the first one it was an arcade setting, so there's a couple games that they go into. And with this one, without trying to spoil it, it's about the internet, but they're trying to cover every single popular internet topic they possibly can in this movie, and it's so much. Mm-hmm. There's too much going on. It's like everything had to be like really, 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 really fast paced, and there's so many topics going over, and then like the whole backstory to me seemed like it took a back
like
seat.
The world building.
Yeah. Because world building that just I feel like maybe
the first one has it. Like the first one has the world building, and it's like it's coherent and you get it, and you only see the games that are in that arcade. Right. So you're not expecting every single game ever to be on there, and then they have some fictional games too where they do most of their stuff, which I think is funny because like having Sugar Rush, like you have Sugar Rush if you can't use Mario Kart. So Mario Kart is nowhere in the first Wreck-It Ralph, so they do Sugar Rush instead. Mm-hmm. That's the Mario Kart game. The second one, they go, like, they show YouTube and Google and everything else, but then they go on to BuzzTube or something.
Yeah.
So it's like, we're using BuzzTube because we can't use YouTube, but YouTube's still in the movie.
Yeah.
Because we had to show YouTube. You didn't do totally thumbs down, so there's some stuff you like about it.
Well, I mean, it's a fun movie. If I was recommending this for you to go see, like, with your kids or just, like, younger kids, people who are just, like...
Yeah.
It's fun. It's, like, it's an event. You go to the movies to see it. I would recommend you going to the movies
Yeah.
to see it, because it's a pretty movie. The animation is really awesome, and the world that they build within the internet,
Yeah,
it's pretty mind dazzling. Like, I'm just like, oh wow, look at that.
you know what it feels
That's a lot
like?
of
It
stuff.
feels like Disney World.
Yeah.
They basically made the internet just Disney World.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it has all, like, it's like, here's the Google Tower, and here's the YouTube place, and, here's Instagram with all its pictures and everything. It looks like a museum with
Yeah.
galleries and stuff. Like, that was fun. I liked
Yeah.
that way they did the setting. In the first one, the way they did the arcade was the circuit breakers, almost like this train station
Yeah.
in between, where, like, everyone goes between.
You
And
can
then,
go
like,
and
they...
visit other places.
Yeah, that was
That
cool.
was cool.
So they do the setting well, but the world building doesn't feel as good in the second one,
the
in my
second
opinion.
one.
Because
Yeah.
like you said, it feels like they try to cast too wide of a net and they try to cover everything.
Too out of a net.
The first one, it almost felt like it went for the Shrek kind of demographic, where it was kids that could at least follow, like, a hero's journey
Yeah.
plot line, where it was like, maybe ages 8 to around 16 is who it's targeting. Because, like, there's kind of some, like, there's some serious peril that happens, and, like, actually, like, vindictive evil people are in the first one. Like, people who want to cause harm
Right.
are in the first one. I mean, without getting into spoilers, the first one has a villain who is a bad person.
Yeah, he's a
Like-
bad guy.
Yeah, and he, like, contorts into something that's kind of unsettling during the course of the movie. And he basically tries to kill Vanellope. The villain in the original one did. So it definitely has, like, higher stakes and feels like it feels a little more intense. Whereas this one definitely felt like the TV show sequel.
Yeah.
Where it's like, this movie would be shown on Disney Junior, whereas the first movie would be shown on Disney XD.
And once again,
my opinion.
spoiler alert here again.
I'll put little
The second
icons.
movie, the villain is basically Ralph.
Yeah.
What I'm getting at is that I'm seeing now, I'm thinking about it, Ralph was basically the villain for that whole movie, because he was
he was.
the reason everything was going wrong and the reason that the whole plot line began, because he...
Everything is his fault.
I
And
mean,
it's
Wreck-It
because
Ralph,
of his incompetence.
he wrecked it, honestly.
Yeah,
But, I mean...
but you remember in the first movie where it was, he feels like a bad guy, and he's like, he's supposed to be a bad guy, but he doesn't feel like he's bad.
Yeah.
He doesn't feel like he's done anything wrong.
No,
But, like,
he is a bad guy.
He is capable of, like, destruction. This main character, like, even if they're starting off as, they're rough around the edges and they're really talented and really capable,
Yeah.
like, there's the story is them honing that and learning when to use it, and, like, I mean, that's Luke Skywalker. Like, Luke Skywalker has the Force. He has the potential. He's the descendant of Darth Vader, so it's like, he has all this potential, and that's why Vader wants to turn him, and it's why Obi-Wan and Yoda are trying to get him to the good side, because he has potential. Wreck-It Ralph has, like, tons of potential, and he feels like he's been miscast as a bad guy in the first one. When he destroys things, he like, learns how to use that appropriately, like, when to use that. And then, he goes back to enjoying his life, where he's like, okay, well, I'm good at this. I understand why I want to do it now, and now my community appreciates me for doing it.
Yeah.
Because they lost me for a while. They lost this thing that I provide. It was all around, like, it fit together well. And at the end, you're like, you never think Ralph is infantile or a man-child in the first one.
No.
He very much comes off like an adult, like a grown man who's the star of a kid's movie. Kind of like Woody comes off in Toy Story. Woody's a toy, but he comes off like an adult in a kid's story. I mean, that Robin Hood is an adult in a kid's story in the Disney Robin Hood. Yeah. So it's weird that Vanellope feels like the adult in this one, when she's, by all accounts, a kid. And in this one, she feels like a younger sister who's, like, having to take care of a relative who's like a loser, like a total burnout. Like, he won't go and get a job or something, or like he like dropped out of high school because he was like drinking or something, and the parents kicked him out, and she's like, I mean, I'll be responsible for him.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem to really bring her joy. That'll go into spoilers.
Yeah, that'll
Because it
go
almost
into
seems like
more
that's
spoilers.
intentional.
Yeah.
Which is why it feels more incorrect. Because
Yeah.
I was like, this is an accident. It has to be. They are making this just for kids, and they had to make him like goofy and silly all the time. And it's like, oh, Ralph, you klutz.
Yeah, you wrecked
Which is,
it.
I mean, that's out of character, but I could at least see why
Yeah.
they think that works. Then as the movie goes on, I feel like it gets worse.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm freaking out hard.
I never once laughed in the movie. I don't think it's funny. Y'all laughed
laughed,
really
yeah.
hard at one reference that went over my head. It
I
was a
don't even
reference
remember
to
what
some
it was.
YouTuber that
Oh,
I'd never
yeah.
heard of. Who did it-
Spoiler.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, you don't want to spoil
Yeah.
a joke. Okay, so it was a reference to a YouTuber that I didn't know, so it went over my head, but they laughed at it, so I was like, oh man, I wish I could laugh.
Yeah.
But then the stuff that wasn't going over my head was like either old jokes about the internet, which of course, like they announced this movie was being about the internet like 3 years ago, so it's like, well, it's all your jokes are going to be outdated. Like internet jokes, they never last. And I noticed it's what's an old joke now? I used to think it was evergreen. It's old now. Cats on the internet, like that's old.
Yeah. I
I
mean,
mean-
they showed that in the previews, the little Twitter thing where they're like sharing a bunch of pictures of, I think it was just Grumpy Cat. But Grumpy Cat is
didn't
like
even see
not even
that.
a thing anymore.
Yeah, for a long time, Grumpy Cat's not been a thing.
Yeah.
But also, like, observational humor can work. That's not an observation to notice that the internet is full of cat videos.
Yeah.
It might sound like I'm expecting a lot out of, like, a kid's movie as far as, like, observational humor and, like,
Yeah.
stuff that...
The
stuff
continuity of, like, surrounding what's going on in the world.
Oh, yeah,
right
yeah.
now.
Well, and just, like... observational comedy that comes from, oh, I didn't think about that, but you're right.
Yeah.
Like, I could expect that from the first one because there were little subtle, really well done jokes
Yeah.
in the first one that are non-existent in this one. Like, they had freaking graffiti that said Aerith lives. Like, if you're gonna make Aerith jokes in a kid's movie, I can expect that you're probably better than, there are cat videos on the internet.
Yeah.
That's
Sure
freaking
are.
hilarious. You guys remember Screaming Goats from 3 years ago?
God.
Remember when those were popular?
Yeah.
Okay, this is kind of a spoiler, but when they have his face superimposed on the goat,
Yeah.
I was like, wait a second, I've seen that in real life. Those are like Markiplier videos, and I was like, oh, someone probably does think this is funny.
Yeah.
Right now, they probably think it's funny.
Yep. There are people.
What am I doing in here? The humor, I feel like a lot of the humor was, look at how stupid Ralph is.
Yep.
Oh, what a
big idiot.
just a moron.
Yeah. What a big bumbling buffoon.
It's like, he wasn't a buffoon.
He wasn't a buffoon in the first
He
one.
was big.
He was just big
And-
and he was strong and
And he was
misunderstood.
yeah, awkward and misunderstood and didn't feel like he knew his place. He was
Yeah.
trying to find where he belonged. That's not stupid.
Yeah.
It just makes me feel bad. I felt bad a lot of the time where I was like, why is they acting like he's an idiot? He's like, he's not an idiot, then he'd be an idiot. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Fix-It Felix and what's your face? The Commander?
Yeah.
They're barely in this movie.
They're the best part.
And they get I
They're
lied.
fun.
I definitely laughed at the
Yeah.
part where Fix-It Felix is like, this feels like something we should jump right into with no planning whatsoever. Like,
Yeah.
that was funny.
Right.
They're barely in the movie, and they're the times that I laugh. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
just like, oh, I remember when they got to have a whole side plot
Yeah.
in the first movie.
God,
and
that
it-
was great.
And it was really fun and
Uh-huh.
lovable and charming. Oh, well.
I mean, they got that in this movie too. It was just way too short because they had too much ground to cover afterwards.
Yeah.
When they went into the.
Was there a second crew? Because in the first movie, the first crew is basically Ralph, and then it becomes Ralph and Vanellope, with Fix-It Felix and the Commander kind of following behind them,
Yeah.
going on their own kind of storyline.
Right.
If this was a lot of just Vanellope and Ralph,
It was,
and
but
I
it
think
was
that helped me get really sick of Ralph.
right, and then also,
They were bouncing all over the place too.
yeah,
like
they
it was
were
it was
everywhere.
100% like a globe-trotting movie. Like, they're going from place to place to place. And I think that was in response to criticism that the first movie got, where it was like, y'all spent a lot of time in Sugar Rush. Like, everyone kind of got enough of Sugar Rush. They wanted to see more of the world. But I thought Sugar Rush was like a fun, unique location, and it's like, I want to play that game.
Right, me too.
I look at Slaughter Race, and I'm like, yeah, it's full of microtransactions. I'd rather not.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather not think about that.
Right.
Get rid of belly fat using this one weird trick.
Sassy housewives want to meet you.
They do.
Want to get rich playing video games?
Has anyone seen pop-ups in years? I haven't seen a single pop-up in like 5 or 6 years.
Well, you have ad blocker. I use
Who doesn't have ad blocker?
phones. People mostly use phones nowadays.
I don't even get ads on my phone.
I do. Like when you go to like.
Oh, your operating system has ads.
Yeah.
Never mind.
My phone literally has pop-up ads on the home screen. I can just be trying to find an app to go into and I get a pop-up ad. So yeah.
Never mind, I guess that was just me. It feels like they did exactly what I was afraid they were going to do and just try to chase meme humor.
Yeah.
Like, try to make their own memes.
They didn't try to make a story around covering all of the internet. They made a movie about covering every topic you could on the internet, and then it was just like, as they were coming up with ideas, they were adding them to the movie. It wasn't like...
Yeah, that's what it felt like. And I've noticed a time where I was like, that was a blank screen until the week before this shipped. Was when Yes is going through all the categories on BuzzTube, and she says a few specific things that were dated. Then she gets to one, and she says, gaming, and then moves on to the other one. And it's just a JPEG of Fortnite, and then moves on. Because it's like, they said gaming, and knew that the popular game at the time was going to change 5 or 6 times from when they animated the scene to when it actually shipped. So they're like, we just need a blank screen, we'll just slap a JPEG in there, whatever's popular at the time. Which should have been Red Dead Redemption 2, but that's M-rated, so I understand it, guys. Fortnite's fine. The whole segment that happens in Oh My Disney,
Yes.
compare that to Ralph going to the villain, a Villains Anonymous thing or whatever. And, like, the fact that Bowser and Eggman and M. Bison are in there. And, like, you're getting all of these properties from all these other places, and you're seeing them all in one spot, and they're just kind of there in the movie. And it's like, this is so cool. This is a cool crossover.
Yeah.
Oh My Disney is Disney just using all the stuff it already owns and not going to get other things and have that be charming. Like, it's really not that charming to see the stormtroopers be the cops in the Oh My Disney website. Because it's like...
They're bad guys.
I didn't even think about... Oh, they're fascists. I didn't even think about that. That's funny. Did Disney just call themselves the Empire? That's weird.
They could have.
A little bit of self-awareness, fellas.
Well.
But yeah, when they're like, Marvel and Star Wars and Disney princesses and all this stuff. And it's kind of just like... So Disney.
Yeah, well.
It's just Disney. Is Disney just doing this to reference themselves? Yes, they are. They're doing it to reference themselves. Because it's easier than, finding Ryu and Ken and Sonic and Mario and Pac-Man and all of them and putting them in the same movie. Did you notice Nintendo was nowhere in this movie?
Yeah.
Nintendo was all over the first movie. In this one, it's just like, nah, we don't want anything to do with that one. We're not going to be seen in there. It also could be the fact that Nintendo is now getting a theme park in Universal, so maybe Disney's just being petty. The Oh My Disney part, it didn't feel... It felt like we have this stuff, so we're going to use it. Or it felt like we're going to show off, which just about as appealing as we have this stuff, so we're going to use it. Or it was, we don't have the time, the energy, or the desire to go and try to get other things to make cameos or references or whatever. So, and it's like, really, what can you do with the internet? Like, what's a popular property that is... The internet is such a big picture thing that it's like, well, what's popular on the internet? Search engines. That's not a character that makes a cameo. Like, the Google building, that's not a cameo. Like, no one's like, oh, look, Google's in this movie.
Yeah.
Once again, I liked the world building parts of it. like Instagram being a museum and all that stuff. That was cool and clever, but I don't like that instead of seeing, you know, Ryu and Ken hang out in the background.
Yeah.
My favorite...
Because that's another thing. In the first movie, you get to see the characters hang out outside of work.
Mm-hmm.
And this one, the internet's on all the time, so...
Yeah. A lot of things worked or had, like, the potential to be amazing, and it seemed to be, like, whenever we're more like the first movie, or when we're more about video games and less about the internet. Because everything about the internet felt either dated, cynical, or just wasn't very strong, in my opinion. And it really needed a villain. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's basically everything I have to say about it.
I mean, I'd recommend it just to go see it and, like, have a little event of going to see it. Just because it's a
I'd recommend it if
fun
you have
movie.
little kids.
Yeah, if you have younger kids. But, like, I don't know.
It's a kids movie.
Yeah, it's a kids movie.
Which is not a bad thing.
But I feel like the first one, they made it
The first one's
retro
a better movie. Oh, well.
also.
Yeah, the first one's more timeless.
Right.
Because it focused on old games that are still popular and will always be popular.
And this
I mean,
one
freaking
is
Street Fighter 2. Yeah.
Definitely not timeless. Because they mention a lot of already pretty dated
Yeah, it's dated the day
topics.
it came out.
Yeah. But it's a good kids movie. It's fun. It's,
Yeah.
you know, there's lots of stuff going on and lots of...
First one's a better kids movie.
Yeah, it's true.
Here was my hot take. Like, you know, one-line article for the review that I was going to say. It was like, you remember that part in the first movie? Like, at the very end, or maybe it was in the credits, where you see Skrillex. Like, Skrillex is DJing at the Nicelander party at the end.
Oh, yeah.
That, but a whole movie, is the second
Yeah.
one.
It's like
is
when that one came out,
referencing Skrillex.
Skrillex was already pretty... I mean, he did the music for that scene in the Commanders game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But, like...
He was already
by
old
then,
news.
He was already... Yeah, Skrillex was already, like...
It's kind of
Dunzo.
like when a movie ends with an Owl City song, like when they were all doing that around like
yeah.
2016,
Everybody
where it was like
doing that.
it was like, yo, I was in high school when we was over him.
Yeah.
I think if you're like me, where you really like a good hero's journey, like Shrek 1 or 2.
Yeah. It's
Like,
not.
if you're the kind of person who stops at Shrek 2, I probably wouldn't recommend it.
Mm-mm.
But if you have kids, or if you just like, if you just enjoy like really lighthearted humor, like, yeah, go ahead,
Yeah.
just see it. There's no fart jokes, surprisingly, so that's good.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just juvenile nonsense. Like,
Yeah.
it's very much Disney Junior.
And I was gonna mention this earlier, but the pacing before the big ending scene, it's like everything was going so fast up until that point, and then everything like slows down.
Oh, yeah.
Stop! It just halts right
yeah,
there.
it just, and then we just kind of stay
We
at that
just
finale
sit there
scene.
at that scene, and they're just having this big emotional like hurdle for Ralph, who's a big baby.
Who has spent the whole movie not learning anything. He
Yeah.
has to
Learn it all in this last
right
scene.
here, and it's just it's pulling teeth.
Yeah.
Shouldn't it be Ralph wrecks the internet?
Yeah, since he is Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah, but break the internet, it's like a thing.
Right, it's just wreck the internet kind of sounds better, doesn't it?
You're not wrong.
Does it suck or does it slap?
Eh.
I think
Oh.
it sucks.
I don't think it sucks, but it certainly doesn't slap. It
What's
might,
in
might be a
between?
little-
What's in between sucking and slapping? It's like halfway through the drink and someone just knocks it out of your hand.
Yeah.
Actually, that'd be worse
That'd
than
be
either.
horrible.
Never mind. What's in between sucking or slapping?
Someone trying to give you an old church hug or something, like side hugging you. And you're just like, we're not friends.
An old church side hug.
Yeah.
Wreck-It Ralph 2.
Yep.
That's our final word on it.